and welcome to another edition of INMEX SMM India Connect. Our topic for today's session will be India's rise as a global maritime power. To take us through this journey, with her deep insights gained from a distinguished career with the IAS spanning over 3.5 decades, we have with us Dr. Malini Shankar, Vice Chancellor of the Indian Maritime University. The key roles that she has played related to shipping include the Director General of Shipping and the Chairperson of National Shipping Board with the Government of India. On behalf of Index SMM India, I would like to extend a warm welcome to you, Dr. Malini. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be with INMEX today.
We have a number of interesting questions today and are very eager to listen to you on these topics. So let's just get into it. Our first question is, what are the two most important things you would want for the Indian maritime sector to rise up to the next level?
The two things that immediately come to my mind are number one, leadership. We need an integrated leadership which doesn't look at just, the industry should not be looking at what's in it for me or what's in it for the company, but what is in it for the maritime sector. This has happened in the past, but over time there has been, inward looking, and we have to look at an integrated leadership so that we tell the world that we are the leaders. A second thing is research. In the field of management, there are price takers and price makers, right? We've been
Yeah,
price takers for too long. What can we do at every single level to ensure that we are not price takers, but we have a lot of influence.
yes.
Those are the two major things that come to mind.
Thank you so much, and so appropriate as well. How do you think collaboration with other maritime nations will help us grow further?
So there are several levels at which this collaboration can take place. Uh, I think even in the Prime Minister's speech of G20, maritime was flagged as a key
Yeah,
aspect
that's right.
of collaboration. Uh, our Honorable Prime Minister has actually taken steps to have the Indo-Pacific initiative. So I think, if you look at the past, shipping is as old as the history of mankind itself. I mean, if there were no ships, they would not have gone across continents. And
Yeah,
somewhere along the line, we went to roadways, railways, airways, and I think uh, we are coming back to maritime. So collaboration with other countries is a sine qua non as far as maritime security is concerned. If you look at the newspapers, if you look at geopolitics, every day you read a lot about maritime security. So that's at
yes,
one level, that's at the highest level. When it comes to the commercial aspects, obviously the geopolitics will influence the commercial aspects, who we trade with and how much we trade.
yeah,
But at the third level, at the training and education level, collaborations do help. I'm very heartened sometimes when I look at potential partners for collaboration. We come
mm,
across institutions which, when we compare, we are actually far ahead in terms of, let's say, STCW training. We are very firm. But there are areas in research where we could learn from others. So if you
mm,
look, many of you at the previous generation or my generation would have gone to England for training, etc.
that's right.
You have universities in England which have a very strong foundation in research
Yeah,
and path-breaking research, state-of-the-art research. For example, Plymouth University has a maritime cybersecurity lab.
yes,
So these are things that we have to, collaborations would help us, first of all, be aware of what are the requirements of future industry. And
yes,
secondly, how do we transfer that knowledge um, between each other? So now we have collaboration. The government of India has facilitated collaboration of the Indian Maritime University, for example, with
hmm,
the university in Philippines.
yeah,
So, and there we are looking at training, exchange of students, exchange of faculty, as well as some research. And the
mm,
research, the more you collaborate, the more areas of research that open up. Otherwise, tend to have a tunnel vision, which is natural. So
yes,
there's no doubt that collaboration will help in the rigor of trading, in the the spectrum of research, as
yes.
well as I said, maritime security.
Oh, yes, that leads us, right into the next question that we had is how would you envisage an industry academia collaboration going into the future?
Well, you know, it is, you look at the new education policy, you
Mm,
look at any policy document today, it talks about collaboration between industry and academia. This has
yeah.
been somewhat missing in the past,
Mm,
not just in the maritime sector, but in many other sectors. Education has been a silo, and then the industry has been a silo.
yeah.
The reason countries, OECD countries, and United States and Canada prosper is because they exchange this knowledge between each other.
Yes.
So we made, for example, in the Maritime University, Indian Maritime University, we made baby steps by reaching out to the Institute of Marine Engineers of India
Mm,
and having somebody, have a chair position here, and so that, if nothing else, it brings the industry and the academia together to identify common areas of interest. So going ahead, I think the way to do it is R&D projects,
mm,
R&D research. Now, I differentiate the two. The R&D project is for students, so they get a hands-on experience, and the industry knows which student to pick up as their future employee.
yeah.
And R&D research is serious R&D research. If you have a problem, who do you give it to? So
Mm,
you give it to a university which does research on it.
yeah.
Mentoring has been a constant support system of the industry in mentoring and internships. And most important, according to me, is for seafarers to share their experiences with the potential seafarers, experienced seafarers, sharing
Yes.
their experiences, and connecting. Now, if I'm a student or if I'm a new recruit, if I'm a budding seafarer, who do
Yeah.
I turn to when I need some help? So that sharing of experience expands their contact. And finally, professors of practice and associate professors of practice, because this is an applied field, whether it's marine engineering or nautical science or naval architecture. These are all applied sciences, applied technology. It's not pure science like chemistry or physics.
Mm,
So I think the more that the seafaring community interacts, shares their knowledge, and bonds with the potential future seafarers, the
yes.
better it stands for the country and for the sector to achieve their objectives.
So true. In fact, as you were saying, I was just thinking that we had in the past our engineers and deck officers going overseas for not just clearing their certificates of
Mm,
competency, but also to engage in research projects and to look at other opportunities for them to work in the industry. Now, I think in those days, there were not too many avenues open in India
India.
to do this. But now I think a lot of these are happening our side also. And also with the new startup culture coming,
Mm,
this combination of the universities promoting startups and combining that with industry
yes.
is coming up. Do you have any comments on that as well?
Yeah, yes, definitely. I'm glad you brought that up because it's not just the Indian maritime universities, but there are other maritime
Yeah.
colleges and universities, and all of them are putting up incubation centers and
Mm,
innovation centers, inviting people to come and actually start their research there, incubate their thoughts, and carry
mm.
it forward from lab to land.
Yes.
And I'm very happy to see some of our the graduates of the erstwhile DMETs and
Yeah, yeah,
erstwhile institutions. They've reached a certain level in their field, and they're excellent entrepreneurs. We have star examples of entrepreneurship coming out of these places in different fields. Some of
yeah,
them are engaged. They've gone ahead and used their technological prowess and knowledge in defense. Some of them in
yes,
water resources. So I think that is the future of the country. It's not just
yeah.
shipping. It's a lot more than shipping.
Absolutely, because every day you read about Indian unicorns and startups which are proliferating, and people are no longer caught up in the doctor, engineer, accountant,
That
tunnels, and doing things that are taking them to at different levels of growth and development that we could have never envisaged
so even
before.
among the seafarers, for example,
Yes,
previously they used to sail for 30, 40, 50 years. There's no age of retirement, so they could
that's
sail
right.
till 70,
Yeah,
75. and now they would like to come back after a decade or two, and
Yeah,
then set either join a short job, or many of them set up their own enterprises of different kinds. The
that's
kind
right.
of confidence that they get from their experience, they bring it
Yes,
on to either an intellectual enterprise or a commercial enterprise. And it's
right.
very encouraging to see that development.
True. Thank you. Uh, on a slightly different note, we see that a lot of countries overseas set up huge events related to maritime that bring together experts,
Mm.
industry and end users as well as academia, and these help and promote and develop the industry in that location. In India, we have the INMEX SMM India events that come up. So, what is your experience with this, and how do you see our industry using this? And what do you think? How should industry and people interested in the maritime sector in India utilize these events for their own growth and development?
Okay, I think as I envision it, these events have multiple objectives. One
Yes,
is for obviously the fraternity to meet,
yes,
and that's always a bonding which is required if you want to network in the future for take your ideas forward, whether it is in strategic thinking or
yes,
whether it is technological developments, right? So sometimes you go for these events and you're quite surprised and taken aback at the the advances that have been made in technology by companies which you probably didn't know existed. So it's a
yes,
very good opportunity for companies, Indian and smaller companies, to showcase their expertise, and for people who visit to know that such expertise exists. So that, I think, is the primary objective of such events. Apart from that, if I can just say that if these events can be, if the proceedings can be collated to see what are the specific and not generic, but very
mm,
specific recommendations that can be given to the government, because
yes,
after all, policy is a very, very important aspect of any field, any domain.
yes,
So, and it doesn't have to be 20 points. If it can be just 2 points,
yes,
but is shipbuilding, is it important? If it's important, what has to be done?
correct.
And that is where, if we can have this can offer a platform and a forum for opposing views to come together and actually arrive at a common path that we can
Yeah,
take. Very
yeah,
often, I would like to say, when you see it from the government side, there are two or three forces, not in consonance. So then how do you get a policy when you have such a situation?
yes.
If this kind of forum can actually get people together and say, okay, these are the two or three most important things that we require, and this will definitely have trigger off other developments, rather than looking at 20, 30, 40 small points.
Uh,
Smaller points may be important, but the larger policy
True.
aspects should not be forgotten. Yeah.
Yeah. And by having more of these events, probably, even if two are done in one, as an outcome of one event, we will definitely
Yeah.
make progress rather than remain in a debate that doesn't have an outcome. Very true. Uh, Coming back to IMU now, what role do you see IMU play in shaping the future for us in the maritime sector?
Yeah. So if I can find a slogan which is appropriate for today's education and training, um, it is future ready. You know, everybody has to be future ready, and techno- technological obsolescence used to take quite a few, at least 3 years, 5 years. Now it's down to a few months sometimes.
Yes.
By the
Yeah.
time you acquire some training, it's past, and then you have to go and reacquire some other expertise. So but it is difficult for an educational institution to keep changing this that rapidly. So keeping this in mind, we've taken a few steps. For example, we are introducing a minor degree for marine engineering. So marine engineering was in the past majorly mechanical engineering and electrical engineering,
Yes.
and it is moving more towards electronics and communication,
Yes.
sensors. If
True.
you're going to
Very
have
true.
autonomous ships, MASs, these
Yes.
are all things that, a mechanical and electrical engineering is necessary but not sufficient at all.
Yeah.
And if we talk about hydrogen and ammonia, we might need chemical engineering too. We don't know.
True. That's
So
right.
we're expanding and giving the option for the cadet to say, okay, do you want to
Mm,
do a little more, put little more effort and get a minor degree? That's the first step.
mm,
This is an outcome of the government-driven MIV program, Maritime India Vision 2030. So
okay.
that's one implementation. The second is, while we can't change the academic curriculum, by that I mean a curriculum which leads to a degree, we cannot change it too fast, but we can
Mm,
always offer some courses which are like niche areas.
yeah.
And niche areas can be in the technology side or the non-technical side. So the technology side could mean what are hydrogen ships, what are ammonia-based ships, little more
Yes.
information, a little more rigorous knowledge of that. On the non-technical side, I think that's something we are forgetting because we have to look at that. That's when I earlier said we need to be leaders. It is not leaders in technology alone, leaders
Yeah.
in thinking, in envisioning. Now, for
Yes.
arbitration, we have to go to Singapore or London, right?
Yes.
What are the arbitrators we have now? How many of the people, members of the fraternity, are comfortable? And we don't need hundreds and thousands of them. We need
Mm,
a
mm,
few experts.
yes.
So that could be, so we call this microcredit courses. So basically 15 hours of training from a specialized person, person with specialized knowledge and expertise. So
Mm,
we are introducing that so that it gives an advantage to the emerging cadet or the graduate of the university to go ahead and be prepared to
mm,
to meet the expectations of the industry. We People might know that we do have a research program. We have about 50 people enrolled for our PhD program, but these are mostly part-timers. So now we have introduced a research assistantship for
okay.
full-time researchers, and
Mm,
we are partnering institutions like the RIS of the Ministry of External Affairs. This is the Research and Information Systems. We are
mm,
partnering the National Institute of Advanced Studies of Bangalore. We are partnering universities abroad to see. So first there has to be a student, then a research project, and
mm,
and they bring it together, and that's how we build this university. It cannot limit itself to just awarding undergraduate degrees. It has to
true.
be do industry relevant research. We also have started a policy research center called C Prime, Center for Policy for Maritime Education and Studies. So this is where we take up policy research. And the reason this is important is we need a think tank. We need
Yeah.
a point source for as a resource center for both the industry as well as the public sector and the
Yes.
government.
True.
So this is where it can be neutral, it can be objective, not driven by any particular interest of any of the parties. And if you have differing views, opposing views, dissenting views, it can be brought together and slashed out, and we can bring out the common factors. Uh, as far as students go, we're also introducing peer-to-peer learning. One
Okay.
of the one of the feedback that I kept getting ever since I joined as Director General Shipping many years ago was, while the Indians are excellent in technology, in science and engineering,
Mm,
they are not measuring up to the expectation in terms of, let's say, communication.
yes.
There are other countries where the communication skills are very good. And in
Yes.
my opinion, communication is not something which can be taught in a classroom like English. It's
Yes.
not English grammar and composition and essay writing.
True.
So we've done a few things. One is, and this is all part of expanding their personality, right?
Yes.
So that you go out in the world and you make a difference, and you the more you learn, the more you know, the more you are exposed to, it makes you a more lively person, a dynamic person, dynamic thinking. So
Mm,
peer to peer learning, I've told them, get up and teach. And
yes.
I was told, no, 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 but only teachers can teach. I said, no, that's not true. Try it out. You won't believe
Mm,
the student can teach the teacher.
yes.
Personality development in terms of participating in activities which are wide ranging, maybe extra non-scholastic, including, we have a couple of the cadets who actually went around with a camera and captured the birds on campus. You,
Mm,
it can be astronomy, it can be, trekking, climbing, anything. And last of all, we were very interesting. I introduced something called a book review for
Okay.
internal assessment,
Okay.
because the present young generation is more into technology and less into reading books.
Yes.
But I do think reading books is important for various, progress, for various development of the mind.
Yes.
You read different books and you grasp the ideas and you express. And I tell them, when you go for it, it's not a waste of time. You go for interviews, you never know what the person asks. They're not
Yes.
just look. And many recruiters, they tell me that, we can teach them the technology because each industry has a different technology. Anyway, they
Yeah.
have to orient them. Says, but we can't teach them, perspective. We cannot teach them comprehension. We
True.
cannot teach them communication. So I think the future lies in having a all round personality. If I look at the seniors in maritime sector, I'm talking about 70-year-olds, 60-year-olds, they know so much about so many things,
Yes.
and they're able to influence people's thoughts, and that's what we require.
No.
It's a long answer, but
No, no, no.
yeah.
Every bit of it makes sense. I was just, as you were saying this, I was looking back in terms of our application in the real world environment, and every single thing that you have said is making sense. Today's generation, I find, is definitely different from the previous ones, where the focus was more on the knowledge and the technology side of things.
Yes.
Whereas today's generation realizes the power of communication. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, so they've got their blogs. So even that is helping them to develop their
Oh,
ability and
yes.
communication skills. And I'm seeing that helping in a very big way for them to not just show what they know, but also to help and guide others. As you were saying, you stand up and teach. Even that is now becoming far more probable and common in comparison to what used to happen in the past.
I went to a school and college where a couple of the subjects we had to get up and teach. I mean, the
Mm,
teacher came and said, this is the part of the curriculum that I will teach, and this is what you will teach.
yeah.
And it's amazing how it develops. It trains your mind to read, to understand, to grasp, comprehend,
Yes.
and to
Yeah.
express. And when you get up to teach your own classmates, the amount of confidence that it builds,
Yes.
you, and you do much more hard work because your classmates can be more nasty than the teacher, huh?
Absolutely. I completely agree. Maybe we should modify our exams also that way. So you have students to come and teach to the surveyors.
And set the papers.
No, maybe not set the papers. Uh, no. On this, so I think what you said is coming down to having the right people in the right places also. So how do we attract this talent to come in. Now that today there are a lot of options in the industry, and uh, from the beginning, this has always been seen as a tough industry. It's not something that you can come back, do a 9 to 5 job, and come back home, or you can work from home. I mean, you are in a harsh environment. You are subject to a lot of pressure. You are away from your family, but so a lot of people, especially when you have reasonably better options. In a couple of decades ago, this the pay scale and the opportunities were the primary, what shall I
Mm.
say, attractions. Whereas today, it's not so much. How can we attract more talent to get into and contribute to the industry?
I think this is a challenge for many industries, because the world has been taken over by something called fintech. That's we
Yes,
live in a fintech
absolutely.
world. So, yeah, but then I think we have to project a more positive picture. Let me, how many people are aware of this field at all?
Mm.
Like I always say this, and I'm
Yeah,
repeating it for the nth time. When I
yeah,
was appointed as Director General Shipping, my own colleagues asked me, "So what is the job?" I said, "First, let me join, and then I'll tell you what's the
yeah.
job." So that's the so you know for example, I said if you're celebrating a National Maritime Day or World Maritime Day, if
Mm.
you're going to do it within the industry, no
Yeah,
use.
yeah.
You've got to go out in the world, and I think we've started doing it. We had
Mm.
parades on the Marine Drive in Mumbai,
Yeah,
for example. You
correct.
go and put up exhibitions in places where there is heavy footfall.
Yeah,
Increasingly, people are coming from not from the coastal and elite backgrounds. They're coming from the hinterland, from small backgrounds. We have
Yes.
to go and paint the right picture. Sometimes there people are misled into thinking that you pay
Yeah.
this much and you'll get this much, and return of
Yeah.
investment is so high. If you paint the correct picture, you will get the right candidate, and they
Yeah.
will stay on. So but we are making steps, along with our own affiliated colleges. We're definitely taking steps to see. We need a strategy. So far, it's been people have come. That's it. Now we are actually moving towards a strategy. How do you
Mm.
strategize? And being more inclusive, there are more girls willing to join, for
Oh yeah.
example.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
we had only 2% about 5 years in the beginning of, yeah, maybe, yeah, 2012, 13, and now we have 9%.
Mm.
For naval architecture, believe it or not,
Yeah.
it's 23%.
Yeah.
So girls come with a passion. This is not an
Yeah.
ordinary field for them. They come with a
Yeah.
passion.
We are even getting electrical officers, ETOs, electrotechnical
Yeah.
officers now, when previously never before were there women applying for that. So that's a huge difference as well. And it's actually increasing from what we are seeing in our recruitment. And even the companies are promoting this to have that diversity in
Yeah,
the
some
fleet.
companies are promoting because
Yes.
they have a gender diversity index that they have
Yes.
to meet. But
Yes.
I look forward to more and more companies, especially the HR of the companies, who should not be very reticent about recruiting girls. They should, do it with their whole heart, and there are companies who devise strategies for this too, how to be careful and how to have a conducive environment for both the men and the women.
Yes.
And when it comes to gender sensitization, we tend to focus on the girls, but we have to focus more on the boys,
On the man.
because they
Yes.
need to be as sensitive as the girls. You
True.
empower the girls, but you don't empower the boys, and then there's a mismatch.
Yes. I guess so. That's also a talent pool that previously was untapped, and now, it's coming up in the forefront. Very true. Okay, so there are a number of questions that we have, and time is short, so I'll try and catch up on on a few this. Uh, we had discussed this about India becoming a global training hub. Could you, if you have any thoughts on this, how can we take the steps, and who are the people that we actually need, and what are the infrastructure facilities that would help us in getting there?
I think there are three elements to any training institution. There could be more, but let me just flag three. One are the right students.
Mm.
So, you don't oversell, you get the right input.
Yeah.
Second thing is teachers,
Mm.
the faculty who are committed, dedicated, knowledgeable, kind, passionate. There's a lot of requirements there.
Yes.
uh, because without the all said and done, for example, the online learning, was just temporary, and now people do want to have face-to-face learning. Now, these teachers, I think at least half of it should be met from the experienced seafarers. I would actually reach out and encourage, nudge, urge these seafarers to come share their knowledge either for a few years or for a few months, because unless they pass on this knowledge, the students will not benefit and be of the metal that we expect them to be. We need
Yeah.
that, and if we are going to become a global hub, we need seafarers to come into teaching, both Indians as well as from outside. And a third
Yes.
part is infrastructure. The infrastructure is very important. Infrastructure could be not limited to simulators, because simulators are again necessary but not sufficient. You
Yeah.
need you need real hands-on training, and that's where the industry comes in again, saying
Yes.
either through research projects or through collaborations to set up a lab, for example. You set up a fuel cell lab, you set up there's so many engineering labs, design labs. So it has to be a collaborative effort. And the industry itself has to be come together and say, yes, we support this.
Yeah.
We can all sail together very, we will uplift ourselves. But if it is very individual, then we just float. We don't sail, we just float.
True.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you started off with something, and at the last when you were telling us about qualities of a teacher, it kind of synced with the qualities of a leader as well. So
Yes.
we require the leadership and the infrastructure and the teachers that are going to build this future for us. Uh, is there anything that you would like to
I,
share as a message to the industry, to the newcomers or those who are looking
I,
to
I
join the
think there have
industry?
been, I've shared enough messages loud and clear, as they say in the shipping sector. I
Yeah.
would only say that, we have, for example, we have an outstanding faculty member, and, I was pushing her into research, and she has a PhD. And one day she told me, no, I've taken the lead, and not only am I doing research, because her paper was getting published in a reputed international organization's journal, but she said, I have empowered my students in such a way that they can
Ah,
produce independent research journal articles. So I think that's what we need. And I think it's a requirement across domains, across industry, independent thinking, independent research, somebody who supports it, encourages it, funds it.
yeah,
All these things are important. I think an integrated approach, like they say, like managers always say, don't work in silos, but they just say, how
yeah,
do we bring that together for the benefit of everyone?
absolutely. Thank you so much. You have given us so much in this short time. I'm sure that people will be coming back looking for more. That was just an amazing session. Thank you for sharing your insights into India's maritime future and the maritime training